Everyone able to hear me? Flossie, am I audible? Hello. Hello.
Yes, Gazal, you're audible now.
Okay. And what's showing up on the screen?
The PPT, the one that you've shared.
The first slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I think we can start. Anandita, you ready?
Yes, all set.
All right. I think people have started joining in, and we just probably take a head count. We already have close to around 30 people who have joined in, and the numbers going up as we speak. Let me open the poll and then we can start off with the whole
Hi, Anindita.
conversation.
This is Sujit Sarangi here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Very good to see you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Gizal. I am part of the learning and development at Hamilton Housewares. I mean, of course, you've seen me in previous episodes as well. And this is our third episode of the Lead Life Talk Show series. And joining us today, this evening, we've got Anandita Vagani. Well, she doesn't need a lot of introduction, but let me just give you a quick about her. She is the daughter of, yes, ADV, Ajay Vagani. And besides that, as an individual, she is the founder and counselor at Unfix, the brand behind, a, a, a coaching or a counseling institute or an establishment that has its own, territory that spans across multiple, continents, where she's been doing a lot of coaching and sessions and assignments with multiple people. Now, Ananta comes with a degree in psychology from Wesleyan University in Connecticut, USA. And with that, she has also pursued an MA in counseling for mental health and wellness at New York University. Right. So that's pretty much that I would like to say. I'll hand over the platform to Anandita so that she can introduce herself. But this session today is all about mental health awareness, where we'll be talking about certain key aspects about what mental health is, why we should be conscious about it, and what are the things that we should take care of ourselves, of our people around us, to maybe lead a healthier, happier life. Right. So over to you, Anandita.
See, thanks so much for having me as part of your lead series and welcoming you all to this session. Thank you for taking time off your busy schedules. I know joining a talk like this takes a lot of, clearing of your schedules, especially on a Friday when we're wrapping things off the work week, but it's also a good way to sort of end our week. So very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And Giselle, I think you did a great job of introducing me. But all I will add is, yeah, I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I work here in Mumbai, but I do see clients across the globe and even across India, both virtually and in person. And one of the things I really love about therapy is that it's a place that you can learn and unlearn thoughts. And really, I find that to be the most powerful motivator for what I do. So I run a lot of corporate workshops, and I tend to speak a lot about mental health awareness. But also, what I'd really like from this session is to leave you with tools and strategies that you can go on and use with your with your employees or employers, and with projects that come up. And I'm always open to questions, even after this session. If you have any individual questions, happy to answer them. And Giselle, I think we're good to start.
All right, perfect. So let's start off with a real quick poll. It's kind of a pop quiz, and let me tell you all that the top winners of the top rankers, the first three rankers of this quiz, are eligible to get some goodies from Hamilton. Like we did last time, people did win bottles and whatnot, and this time also we've got some really good goodies for you all to get. So I'm putting up the poll on the screen now. It's your turn to answer these questions. So it's mostly going to be a fastest finger first with maximum top questions. There are 5 questions overall. So here it goes.
Don't think of it as an exam. Have fun while doing it.
I already see a lot of people answering questions here. The counts are increasing. And Anandita, you were right. There are people who actually know quite a lot about mental health awareness, wherein they're able to kind of identify what a fact is, what a myth is, right? So one of the questions is, if you start therapy, you'll have to do it lifelong. A lot of people do consider it as a myth. So yes, that kind of sets the context right for us. A quick 30 seconds more to go. The results are pretty interesting right now. I mean, a lot of people are answering. Anandita, you will be surprised as to what the results look like. There are 5 questions.
I'm
Go
not
Team
sure.
Hamilton, please do it. We need to show this to Anandita that we do know a lot about mental health and we're ready to accept new information coming in.
My work is done.
All right, the last 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The polls are being closed now. Just shutting off the polls and window closes now. All right, so the polling is ended. We will display the poll results in some time, but yes, thank you so much everybody for participating in that poll, in that quick quiz. We'll declare the winners of this poll in quite a bit. In fact, we'll be putting up their names and photos along with the gift goodies that they receive on Vibe and on a couple of other places also. So just watch out for the space on Vibe. Yeah. All right, Anandita, let's start off with our question and answer series where let's have a tete-a-tete conversation about mental health. So let's take this topic up as to why mental health, or what does mental health really mean when you look at it from an individual perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that mental health is somewhat related to stress, maybe it is related to a lot of depression, and a lot of people take it as a negative stance, like a negative word, mental health. People think that you're going crazy. So could you please throw some light on that as well?
Yes, firstly, I'm very sorry to be starting everyone off with an exam. That doesn't set the stage right for what's to come. I promise you, mental health is not only going to be a very, of course, it's going to be a serious conversation, but it's not like an exam. And I hope everyone's feeling relaxed and is able to be present here. I'm so glad to be here. Like you said, Giselle, there's a lot of misconceptions around mental health, right? And in our society, people sort of think that when you go see a counselor, you must be crazy, right, to be able to do that. And I think that really dates back so many years when mental health was thought of as people going off to institutions. And that's not the case today. Today, we have therapists who are able to nurse you back to good mental health. And, one of my favorite stories is this client came into me and says that what's the point of working on our mental health, because destiny is destiny, everything's written out for us, right? And I said, yeah, well, you can't choose the canvas that you will paint in life, but you can decide the picture you'll paint, right? And I think that's what good mental health is. It's the picture that you paint with the help of people around you, with the help of therapists, with the help of loved ones, and with the help of rituals that you can keep yourself accountable to, that keep you in good mental health. And it's interesting that we think of mental health as a negative connotation, but physical health has quite a positive connotation, right? But in many ways, mental health is just like physical health. Everybody has it, and we need to take care of it. So good mental health really means being able to think, feel, and react in ways that you need and want to live your life. And an interesting statistic is that mental health problems affect around 1 in 4 people in any given year. And this ranges from common challenges such as depression and anxiety to rarer problems like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. And so there's a lot of different types of mental health illnesses. So I think to start off with, not everyone who has a mental health challenge is crazy, right? There's no diagnosis for crazy. And I always joke with my clients that if crazy was a diagnosis, we'll all be on the spectrum somewhere. So yeah, that's what mental health is. It's like saying, yeah, like you have a good diet, sort of like that. You have good mental health, and we're all striving to get there.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for throwing light on that very, very important topic, Anamika. But then, what are the internal and external factors that you think can influence our mental health? Maybe our mood swings, maybe things that we can probably control, not control. Are there things that affect our mental health really?
So, this is a debate that's going on in the field with, is it nature or nurture, right? So, is our mental health shaped by genes, or is it as a result of our choices in life? And science tells us that it's sort of both, right? So both biology and family history play an important role. So we can be genetically predisposed. That means there's some predictability in terms of sometimes if someone in your family has a mental health condition, you might be more likely to get a condition like depression or anxiety. But that at the same time, what happens in the environment is equally important. So things have to happen in the environment also that either enable or disable those predispositions, right? And Giselle, family history is not just about genetics. When we're talking about family history, we're talking about the way our family thinks of mental health, the way we think of conflict, the way we think of emotions. So growing up, when you went to your parents saying that you were having a bad day, how did they react to it? Right? Did they have the knowledge to explain to you what an emotion meant, or how, a lot of people think anger is a negative emotion. It's not. Anger is what creates social change in our society. So having the right tools as a child growing up is a great way to shape your mental health. But that being said, you can still shape it. And I always tell my clients this as well, that anyone can change as long as they have the willingness to change. And really, I work with a 75-year-old client who came in, and I was like, really, how is he going to be able to, change at this point in his life? But he had the willingness and openness to do it. And that's really what determines, how your mental health parameters go. So I think the environment has a lot to do with it, but you can also have certain genetic predispositions. And what we learn from our families can really shape how we cope with stress and how proactive we are to seek mental health advice and help.
Well said, Anandita. There are times when I think of mental health. I remember some episodes from my childhood where my mother or my father kind of imbibed certain things. This is something that you should do. This is something that you shouldn't do. Maybe places that you should visit, you should not visit, or good and bad habits. It all formed. Eventually, it all became a part of my personality over a period of time. And somewhere those things do create that mental makeup of mine. I mean, I am what I am today because of the values or because of the instructions or the restrictions that I had, right? So it all becomes a part. And yes, it's not only about nature, but it's about nurture, which is rightly said. Now, we as individuals, Anandita, we bring these values or these mental makeups to our work as well, right? We mix up a lot with other people, a lot of thoughts that happen, a lot of brainstorming that happens, a lot of cultures collide, right? Um, in such a situation, there are times when we end up getting into difficult situations that we just cannot control, right? So how do we strike a balance in these cases where a lot of people, not only Hamilton, but then it's a very corporate problem, if I have to put it like that, that stress is something that people deal with or suffer with rather, and they're not able to create or strike a work-life balance, right? So how do we bring a balance here when we talk about mental health at the workplace?
So mental health at the workplace is really mental health overall. I don't think you stop being a human being when you enter work, right? So whatever's going on in other parts of your life, even if it might be a different environment, does tend to seep in there as well. So for that, I will say that in life, if you look at I'm using a lot of metaphors today because I just think that they're my favorite way to explain things. Um, but if you look at life as a garden and there are different plants to be watered, right? And you look at social life as one plant, you look at family life as another plant, and maybe you look at your hobbies as another plant, physical health, right? Finances, these are all different plants in that garden. And then there's work as well. So I think we tend to burn out when we don't give each plant enough water. Or let's say if we overwater a plant, what happens? It dies, it shrivels up. And that's what tends to happen when we put too much attention in one area of our life. So suppose, and one of the most common workplace challenges that I hear through corporate workshops is burnout. Burnout is nothing but overwatering of the work plant. So you're putting so many resources, right? You're putting so much emphasis on just that aspect of your life that you're ignoring the others. So then strategies need to be in place to be able to, and it's never going to be equal. I think work-life balance is such a myth. I think there's different times in your life that different things are going to be important. But for the most part, you want to not let only one take the wheel. You want to sort of balance it out. Now at work, what it presents as we might feel more tired than usual. We might look drained up. And people have different ways to cope, right? Either people will shut down and say, I just can't take any more work today. Or alternatively, we can speed up and become chaotic and be like, come on, go, like intrude into others' conversations, get things done. This is also a way of distracting ourselves maybe from what's going on outside our work, right? Sometimes things are really hard at home. And to escape it, we might use work, which is also an issue because eventually you are going to burn out if you keep walking that path. You might even feel like you're sleeping less, or maybe you're drinking after work a lot more than you usually do. And of course, if there are underlying mental health challenges like ADHD, that also tends to become a challenge at work. I think that in general, what COVID taught us was that the way we're working is not sustainable and it's hurting our mental health. And until recently, when organizations spoke about mental health, they would only talk about people who already have something going on. चलो इसको anxiety है, they'll tell their boss when they enter that I have an anxiety disorder, or they may not even, because they might feel like it makes them less qualified for the job, right? We only focus on those as a culture. But now focus is on everyone's mental health, which is great, because just like we all have physical health, we all also have mental health. And so I think when studies are done in the field, what they find is that the most common factor of stress that leads to, poor mental health is that work is sometimes emotionally draining and work-life balance. So these are the key areas that come up in work. And I think mental health challenges are now the norm among employees across all organizational levels.
Got it.
So, yeah, I think while it's not surprising that there are a lot of macro stressors, it also supports the notion that mental health challenges affect all of us on a regular basis, even at work. And even though the COVID might have gotten more awareness to it, it was always there.
Of course. And post-COVID, it's just that it's hyped up maybe, or it's got that wind now that people are able to really recognize these things. But Anandita, if I ask you, what are these certain red flags that you should look for, be it at work, be it in your personal life, that you probably need help, or as they say these days, you need therapy. It's just become a very derogatory term for a lot of people.
Yes,
When
it
you
has.
say that you need therapy. Yeah.
So, yeah, people weaponize therapy, right? And that's
Yeah.
where the problem comes up. It's like if you're having a fight with someone, you need help. Why is that a negative thing? Why can't we frame it a little differently in our everyday language to start with? Because how is someone going to feel comfortable seeking help if that is used as a weapon? So framing it instead as, and this one of my favorite books in therapy. It's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. And I really think that's a very kind and genuine way to say that maybe you need to talk to someone about what you're going through. And right, when a friend has a broken leg, we'd tell them to go get it checked. We wouldn't tell them to run a marathon. So similarly, I think that we need to encourage open conversations about mental health by saying, maybe you should talk to someone. Maybe you need to, have an objective view of what you're going through that friends and family might not be able to give you. So yeah, coming back to obvious signs, I think one of the biggest signs is when you're using behaviors to avoid your mental health, like watching too much TV, right? Binge watching, we all do it in some capacity. I'm guilty of it too. Eating or drinking to an excessive level, even sleeping to an excessive level. I think doing all of these are avoidance strategies. We're trying to avoid something that's going on that we're not addressing. And I like to say that whatever the mind suppresses, the body expresses. So, आप जितना भी suppress करने की कोशिश करो, eventually it's going to find its way. It's going to show up as a headache. It's going to show up as a stomach ache. It's going to show up as sleeplessness. Sometimes you bottle up your emotions, it's going to explode as anger. So there are different signs and symptoms that people come in with. I had a client 2 months ago who came in and said, I had this stomach ache and, I just wasn't getting better. And मैंने तो सब scan करवाए हैं, meaning I did a colonoscopy, I've done every kind of scan for my stomach, and there's just no solution. So the doctors referred me to you. And what was it? The whole stomach problem was anxiety, because our stomach has neurons, it has brain cells, and there's a gut-brain connection as well. So stomach aches, headaches, these are also ways in which our mental health challenges can be shown, especially in a culture where it's more common to talk about that than to talk about psychological challenges.
Well, rightly said, Anandita. So now that we've spoken about what are these things that we should look out for, how do we deal with them? Maybe some strategies related to, I don't know. You may be the right person. You are the right person to give us those strategies. So tell us, Guru, how do we deal with these things? If there's some therapy, if there's some strategy, something that we should do, maybe some habits that we can probably start imbibing starting today.
Well, no pressure at all for that one. But I think to start with, I think we need to build at the workplace, what it might look like is building strong habits around when you do most of your focused work, right? Adding routines to it. So if I feel like I'm most productive between 10 to 12, every day from 10 to 12, I'm going to put in those 2 hours for my most focused work, the work that requires most of my attention. So if you do focus best around 10 a.m., keep a habit of it. This, what happens is it boosts your sense of control. And when we feel burnt out, it's usually because we don't have control, when we feel a lack of control. So when you set these routines for yourself, that from 10 to 12, I'm going to do all the tasks on my to-do list that have the most amount of energy dedicated to them. It's like learning to drive, right? Within a few months, when you turn on your car, you put on your seatbelt, and it happens without thinking about it, you're already switching on your accelerator. So build a routine that makes it predictable for your body. That's number one. Number two, we only think that we have to do tasks when their deadlines due like tomorrow, right? And this is me in school and college as well, right? It's due tomorrow, let's start tonight. But actually, science has shown that if you accomplish small tasks that don't have deadlines and do it anyway, so do small things every day. So set time for small administrative tasks every day so that they don't build up to the level that lead to stress. This is also a way to do that. And I think lastly, you can use an unfocused mind to get things done. We have this false idea that I will only start on this project, when I find the motivation to do it. Well, you start the project, the motivation will follow, right? It's more realistic and healthy to have a mind that's focused than it's unfocused, right? Sometimes you get the best ideas when you're in the shower. So there's no right time to work. That myth, I think, needs to be busted that there's a right time to work. I think any time is the right time to work. You just have to sit down, set a routine, and set your time to it. So this can avoid stress. When you talk about self-care, right, and a lot of this self-care has become such a pop culture thing of, taking a bubble bath or, doing something relaxing for yourself. No, self-care is so easy to do. It requires a very kind discipline. Just take yoga and meditation, for example. Just focusing on your breath and releasing distractions as they arise can be so helpful as a way of self-care. When you're in the midst of the stress cycle, when you're in bed, you don't feel like doing anything, it can be very hard to find motivation. I know all of us have been there, right? So try to think about, well, if I do this, how will I feel afterwards? And when you connect with that feeling of what it might feel like afterwards, you're connecting with the long-term benefits of doing the task. And you might actually want to do it. So that's also a way to take care of yourself. And of course, get to know which plant is not being watered in your life. Pay close attention to that.
That last statement hit me real well. I'm not sure about others, but plant and watering, that's a very good example or an analogy here. I feel a lot of us have a lot of plants in their gardens that are not yet either watered well or probably they've dried out because of no attention. And I feel it's all a season or a phase probably where people eventually realize that something's going down, and by the time they realize the plant's already dead.
Yeah,
So
correct.
yeah, it is a fact. I mean, a lot of us do deal with such situations in and out. So yes, very well said on that, Anandita. Now, we've spoken about mental health, not only on an individual level but at work as well. Are there any things? No, no, you've spoken about sleeping habits also. So could you give us a little more on how can we build a better sleeping schedule? Because a lot of us tend to have these binge on screen times. And personally, it becomes a challenge to wake up and get yourself to work every day because just because you had your favorite movie on Netflix, or maybe you're too busy scrolling your reels, for a kilometer long on Instagram. So how do we get out of that habit? Is there something you'd like to suggest?
Yeah, sleep is one of the most important strategies that you can use to take care of yourself, right? and every organ in your body suffers when you don't sleep. Um, I think we have this idea, Giselle, that, if I didn't sleep the whole week, it's okay. I'll catch up on my sleep on the weekend. How often do we say that, right? I'm sure everyone here has said that. But sleep is not like a bank that you can just put back in the bank what you lost. It's not. It's something it's like a routine. You can't just suddenly wake up one day and think that I'm going to make up for all the sleep that I lost the whole week. Because that sleep debt is building up over time, and you need to deal with it as it occurs. You don't want all the debt collectors at your door at one time. So, also remembering things, we tend to remember better when we sleep better, right? I'm sure before every exam, your mom has told you, have a good night's sleep. What's the science behind this? All the memories that we have during the day are stored in the hippocampus, which is the memory store for your brain. But just like your phone camera roll, it has limited storage capacity. Now, what happens when it exceeds its capacity? You can't store more information. And this is what happens when you don't give your mind sleep. That it becomes overloaded. Now, all these photos can't get stored, memories can't get stored the next day. But if you wake up with a clean camera roll, all your memories can be transferred into long-term memory. And your hippocampus has more room for those memories. But sleeping is also important after we learn something new. It's like clicking the save button on newly created files. So sleeping really is the royal road. Good mental health.
So can I safely say that sleep your way to success?
Sleep your way to success. Yes, absolutely.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much on that. So I think it's now time. I mean, are there any additional thoughts that you'd like to put in, or should we open up the space for people to ask questions? Because I know there are people here who wanted to put up something, right?
Yes,
So
definitely.
would you like us to open the forum now for everyone?
So I was just going to end with a few tips because
Sure.
I know that people think this is common sense, but we don't implement it as much in our lives as to how to
Sure.
sleep better.
Okay.
Right? So number one is sticking to a sleep schedule that your body gets used to. So really sticking to a schedule and putting an alarm even for when it's time to sleep. Exercise is really good, but not late in the day. So try to exercise before work. The science of this is that when endorphins start to give your body energy, your body is too alert and it's not going to get sleep if you work out in the end of the day. The other thing is indigestion, right? We need to be able to plan our meals in a way that we eat them 3 hours before we sleep. Then again, keeping your bedroom really, really cold. My sister's going to disagree with this because she absolutely hates it when I blast the AC, but it really helps sleep. And not doing activities that are not related to sleep on the bed. So we watch TV on the bed, we scroll our phones on the bed. What's happening is your brain is associating the bed with activities, not with sleep. So the more you use your bed for sleep, the more that association is going to build, so that when you hit the bed at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, or whenever it is that you sleep, your body automatically knows that, okay, she's trying to sleep now, it's time to sleep. And then all your body's hormones adjust to that. So I'll leave you with that. Those are some tips to take away.
Yeah. I also read somewhere that there are 3 things that you should have or you should do before you sleep. So make sure that you have a nice cold room. Maybe the temperature is something that is, below your regular temperatures. Should be dark, and make sure that your bed is clean. These are the 3 things that will help you really fall off to sleep, like doze off immediately, right? There is a military method also that probably a lot of people use, 3 to 1. So 3 hours before you finish off your dinner, 2 hours before you probably, switch off all your devices, and 1 hour before you just read something and then go off to sleep, something on those lines. Well, again, theory, practical uses. A lot of people do agree to it. A lot of people disagree, but then we leave it up to them.
It's what works for you.
It's what worked for you, exactly. It's all custom tailored.
It's what helps you sleep, if you can say, really. It's what helps you sleep at night.
Absolutely. So let's just open the forum, shall we? I mean, is it okay if we let people post in questions now?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Happy
So
to
over
answer.
to all of y'all guys. The ham fam is ready. Let's see who's the first one to ask the question. Anyone who would like to post in a question?
And I won't be I won't be calling out names, so if that makes you guys more comfortable. And I'm pretty confidential as a therapist. Nothing goes out of my therapy room.
In
So
fact,
nothing would
just
go
to
through.
just to kind of help ease this process, you all can click on the chat button and directly send your questions into Anandita itself instead of posting it to everybody. You all
That's a
can
good
do that
idea.
also.
Yeah, so where it says send to, you can only select me and send it to me, or even Gizel, whoever you feel most
Yeah,
comfortable.
should be fine by that.
No question is a silly question. Okay, I see. What are the red flags to consider when understanding my team's mental well-being? What should I do to improve the situation? Yeah, this is a very important, something important to look out as leaders, right? Is how do I consider, how can I tell when my employees' well-being is not being taken care of, right? And something important is that maybe you can open up conversation with them to get to know yourself, to get to know them better, right? And really react to emotional timeout the way you respond to sick timeout. So it's pretty hard for people to talk about mental health. So chances are, if they're talking to you about it, they're not making an excuse. It's probably a genuine concern. So what you can do as a manager is do regular check-ins with your team to just see how they're doing on a project. Get to know your employees so much so that when they're going through something and something's not adding up, you can tell, right? So really listening actively to them. And I think also have some strategies as a toolkit that you can always use with them. Tell them you want to support them. Of course, don't overcommit, right? Because there are some things that are also realistic in the workplace and unrealistic. And you don't want them to make unrealistic demands. But say you're with them as a partner and you'll help them figure out whatever challenge they're going through. And if you don't have time for it right now, you can also say that we can revisit the conversation another time. And of course, maintain confidentiality if they discuss anything with you. How can we follow? Yeah,
Can I also post a question? There is
yes,
somebody who's posted a question for
absolutely.
me
Yeah, there's a
also.
couple of questions that are coming to
Yeah,
me
yeah, yeah.
directly, so I just want to make sure I get all of them.
And I have some as well. I hope we're able to answer all of them now. So a question that the one of the participants asked is, most of us feel stressed when we receive feedback. How do we deal with this?
Yeah. So I think that sometimes it's people have different ways of giving and receiving feedback. I might give my employee feedback in English, but they understand in Chinese. Why? Because they're going to understand feedback through their lens of experience. They're going to listen to it the way they've been raised. And people are also going to give feedback the way maybe their parents gave feedback, right? So we really need to understand different feedback styles at work. Try and understand how your, whoever reports to you, how do they benefit from feedback? Are they someone who likes more direct feedback, or someone who likes more sort of feedback that's a little vague? Do they tend to have a feedback style that, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down sometimes? So do they like you to say something positive and then say, what they'd like to improve on? I think that's important. And I think in other ways, reframing the feedback. So instead of saying, you don't know how to manage this, putting it as, you don't know how to manage it yet. What can we do to help you? I think that those can be different communication styles that you can use.
Okay, well, that was about how do you give feedback.
How do you give feedback? How do you
How do you
receive
receive
feedback?
feedback
Okay.
when you and not get stressed about it?
Yeah, so of course, go to your go to your manager and speak to them as to how you'd like to receive feedback. I think that's a very important thing. So speaking to a manager is totally acceptable and saying that, hey, I tend to receive feedback very strongly. Is it okay that when you give me feedback, you put the positive and the negative both together? It helps me understand it better. Or is it okay if you give me feedback that you're more specific about what steps you'd like me to take? I think having that open conversation is very important. And if you want, as a mentor, you can start that very early on in your journey with your mentee. You can already start asking them at the start only when they join your team, what's your way of receiving feedback? How do you like to receive feedback? Because that's a very important part of work. It's going to come up in your everyday life.
And also, can we also add to the point that when we receive feedback, we should always keep our heads clear on one fact that probably we see a problem in a certain way, whereas the person who's going to give us a feedback may see it in a different way as well. You know,
Absolutely.
that can tend to create some sort of cohesion somewhere, and maybe it helps us better down the feedback, like, you know, receive it and adapt to it in a better way. Is that right, Ananta?
Yeah, I always tell my clients, people don't see you as you are, they see you as they are.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's an important thing. I have a couple of questions here,
Mhm.
actually. I'm gonna answer them. One of them is when is the right time to seek help and speak to a professional? And when do I know that a trigger has set in that I can't solve myself? So something to just remember here is that you don't have to be, you're not going to go to a doctor when you're dying, right? You're going to go when the symptoms start to occur. So just like, and sometimes even to prevent the symptoms from occurring. So when we got the COVID vaccine, we wanted to get the vaccine. We were more interested in that than the cure to the symptoms of COVID, right? So prevention is always better than cure. So definitely take the vaccine of good mental health by seeking help earlier than you think you need it. So when anything comes up in your life that starts to affect your sleep, your food, your focus, your mood, that's the right time to speak to a mental health professional.
Got it.
Someone has also asked, sorry, Giselle, I'm interrupting you.
No
Just
problem.
meaning to answer questions that
Yeah.
come in. How to manage and balance life with children and an office. And yes, of course, distributing energy to balance work and home. This is a very, very common concern that comes up, right?
Can I add to the same question?
Yes, go for it.
There's one user who's asked a very similar question. A few of us are new parents. It is not possible to manage a schedule of sleep and work.
Yeah.
Are there any ways to manage this? So can we put some light on that as well?
Yeah, so I think a lot of parents suffer from guilt that I'm leaving my child home and I'm going to work. What they forget is, who are you working for? You're working for your child. So take the guilt out of the situation because you're doing it for them, right? I think another thing is remembering that it really takes a village to raise a child. It's true. And I think we need to be okay asking for help in our families. So whether that means, you know, asking your cousins or your friends to take up for you sometimes, it's okay to do that. Because like I said, at different points in time, your work is going to need your attention. At different points in time, your children are going to need your attention. And I think it's important to put that one on center stage when needed. So distribute your energy wisely and keep a very fixed routine so that your children also know when to expect to see you. And I think set very clear boundaries both at work and at home so that you're not burnt out doing both and all at the same time. Because when you choose something, then you're going to have to compromise on something else. And I think depending on your life and your priorities and your values at any given point in time, you need to be able to make that decision and follow through with it.
Any other questions that we had that users have posted?
We do have a few more questions. Okay.
Let's take one more. One more from you, one more from me, and then we can probably move to the next bit of things. Because if there are more questions, we can definitely post them out to you, and we can go back to the individual users also.
Yeah. So are there any specific signs that we should be looking out for amongst our peers to understand if they're okay? And then also how to tell someone they need help, right? Okay, so this is interesting. So definitely, if you know your friends, you might know the way they talk, the way they eat, the way they sleep, their habits, so if you find someone is being too isolated, that's the first sign usually, is when someone who's, really wants to be withdrawn. from their friends, and people feel that it's a burden to talk to someone. So that might be the first sign that you see in your peers. If you feel like they're not eating well, if you feel like they're not sleeping well, if they're not enjoying things that they used to enjoy before. So if you see a friend who really likes to play a musical instrument and they've given that up completely now, then it might be a sign something's going on. And as for the second question as to how to really tell someone that they need help, I think that it's hard to address this one, right? Because someone can only benefit from help if they want the help. So if you have a loved one or a friend who's struggling with mental health challenges and is reluctant to seek therapy, number one is listen. Let them talk about what the struggle is and how they're coping with life. And if they're resistant to sharing, be supportive. Don't use therapy as an ultimatum. Okay. And then number two is respond. So now you let your loved ones or your friends know that I'm concerned about you. I understand that you might not want to speak to someone right now, but I've heard it really helps. Or if you've been to a therapist, even more so, you can say it's really helped me. And I'll likely offer this suggestion again to you if you're not ready right now. And then just touch base, set up check-ins. So every Wednesday, check up on that friend who's not playing their favorite musical instrument anymore, or who's not going to work as they usually do, or who you feel is suffering. Sometimes asking is all people really need. So I think that can be helpful.
And another question, the last one from us. I mean, it's going to be a collective one that I'll put up. What kind of lifestyle changes can help with the symptoms of mental health disorder, if somebody's asking? And so the question is split. What kind of changes should we bring to our own lifestyles if we want to deal with mental health disorders? And what can we do as an organization for our employees and teams' mental health?
So when we think of ourselves, we, again, using that plant metaphor a little bit here, but we really need to make sure that we're devoting almost equal time, or for the most part, to the different areas of our life that need our attention, that we're not ignoring one completely. So as a person, your identity is not only defined by one area in your life. You're not only a parent or only an employee. You're an employee, you're a daughter, you're a son, you're a mother, you're someone who likes to play a musical instrument, someone who likes to cook. You're so many things. So make sure that you're addressing each of these areas of your life at any given point. I think that's how you can improve on a lifestyle basis. Then again, food and sleep and exercise. They're so important. I know this is really cliched, but honestly, all of us need to make sure that we're getting enough sleep. And what's enough for me might not be enough for you, or might be enough for you. So there's this myth going around that you need 8 hours of sleep. It's not true. Everyone needs a different amount of sleep, and the quality is more important than the quantity of sleep. I think we need to just open up as a culture to speak about mental health challenges, right? So when you're going out, with friends, bringing it up that, how are you doing today? And then follow that question up by how are you really doing? Because most often people will respond to the second one.
True.
As for an organizational view, right? Many leaders try to shield members from stress by taking on the toughest work themselves. And this can lead to leader burnout, which then can lead to the whole team burning out. But I think,
Guilty.
yeah, guilty as charged. But that's not the solution, because you're modeling for your team that the only way to get work done is to burn out. Sometimes it's about working smart, not working hard, right? So really have conversations with your teams and let them know that it's pretty hard for people to talk about their mental health. But today I'd like to share with you a time that I struggled with my mental health. If you're modeling that as a leader, your team is more likely to open up to you. And always thank people for talking to you when they're being open about their challenge. Make sure that you're letting them know that it's a confidential space. And if needed, of course, reach out to your HR team, because I think that's the best resource that you have within the organization who can help you and who you can trust. And really consider realistically what changes you can make. If it's someone dealing with anxiety and they need a more structured schedule, provide it, right? If it's someone dealing with a low day, maybe readjust some of their expectations to suit them as well. along with balancing your workloads. And then, of course, like you're doing already, Giselle, offer programs and education on stress management skills.
Got it. Great. So I think that sums up quite a lot of questions and answers, and I guess we will take more questions. I mean, but in the interest of time right now, let's move on to the last bit of things. Yeah, Anandita, so would you like to summarize the whole thing, maybe quickly, real quick? So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think just summarize by a few points. I think mental health is so important because the brain is the controlling unit for the whole body, right? So when you take care of your brain, you're taking care of the other organs as well. I think the second point is that you can speak up and seek help. Avoiding feelings leads to build up, and they might show up as physical symptoms if you're in your body if you don't address them. And the next one is that speaking to a therapist can feel like a load lifted off your shoulders. It might not be easy at first, but a lot of clients report that going to therapy regularly can help you learn and unlearn so many thought patterns that you didn't even know you were being burdened with. And I think the last point is that, a lot of people think that when I start therapy, I'm going to have to be in it for life. That's not true. The aim of every therapist is to help you be your own therapist. So I always say that once my clients learn to swim without floats, that's when I know my work is done. So from swimming with floats to diving into every challenge life throws at you, I hope you are able to speak about your mental health more openly and to take help when you need it.
Well, thank you so much for this insight, Anandita. Just to sum up the entire conversation, of course, like Anandita said, that you all have various strategies and techniques to help you deal with mental health or maybe mental stress, depression, anxiety, couple of things that happen that can affect your overall mental health. As an organization, Hamilton has also cared about its people and made sure that there are resources available. One of the resources that we have is our own in-house counselor also. If anybody wants to reach out to that counselor, you all can get in touch with me also, and I'll be able to patch you up. Alternatively, as a sign of helping y'all, as a way to help y'all, there are some self-help books available on KLIP, our internal library. One of them is Life Without Limits. The other one is The Gifts of Imperfection. You've got Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, a book that Anandita also spoke about. And The Reasons to Stay Alive is one more. So all of these titles are available on KLIP for you to order. You all can order and start reading. And if you're too not into reading books, then we've got another solution also. We've got learning journeys available on our LMS Alpha, which are understanding emotions, building mindfulness, and nurturing mental health. These are all video compilations that can help you probably understand certain situations, understand emotional intelligence. How do you build mindfulness? How do you, understand and react to situations, keeping your emotions safeguarded? And how do you create an environment around you to nurture your mental health rather than just letting it all out and blasting off on people, right? Alternatively, another option that Anandita has also suggested, take it from the experts. So you've got some apps that can help you. One of them is Headspace. These are all available on iPhones and Android platforms. So Headspace is one. I Am Affirmations is another app. You've got Insight Timer, and also you've got Intellect as another app that can help you, right? And there are some websites that you may want to even visit. One of them is Unfix Your Feelings, something that Anandita herself handles and manages also. It's her own website. Then you've got psychologytoday.com and you've got mind.org.uk, right? So these are certain things that we wanted to share with you all. And personally, on those fronts, I'd like to thank all of you all for being a part of this session today, and making this a success where Anandita could share her thoughts. And probably any closing comments from Anandita or any of the leaders around, I'd like to invite that. Maybe one of the leaders would want to kind of put in a word here. I can see a couple of leaders from the leadership team smiling. and thinking who should take the lead. They're all waiting for us to name them.
Well, I can do that.
Thank you, Girish. We've got our baton holder.
Hi, Anandita. So I think it was a great session. I'm sure everybody would have benefited from this, and I think it's so important for everyone to first do an introspection about where the challenges are. So I think you rightly put it through, and I think your summarizing points are absolutely apt. I think it's easier said than done. I know, but I think if you need to help yourself to help yourself, so that's where it is. So I would like to thank you for bringing this up, and I think Gizal for organizing this. I think in the rigmarole of daily work, I think we need to take a pause and also look at something which is so important, which Anandita is doing. And thank you for bringing this up, and thank you, Anandita.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today's Lead Live Talk Show series, episode 3. This episode will be available on Alpha as well, just like the previous episodes. So you can always go back and do a flashback of whatever points you
And I'm just going to also put my phone number here. So in case you want to reach out to me personally for any questions that may have been unanswered, right? Like I may have left unanswered, I'm just going to leave my phone number in the chat to everyone before we end it. Just a second.
Awesome. So y'all, this is your golden ticket to Anandita Vagani, where she'll be available to answer some questions of yours. Probably it can be anything. Y'all can just reach out to her, and by what we have done today, I hope you've realized that she's pretty approachable. You can talk to her as a friend. She'll be able to understand that because she comes with that kind of experience, right? So please go ahead. We've given you the email address also, as well as the mobile number. So either of this works for you, and you all can reach out to her. Yeah. So I wish you all a very good evening and a very happy weekend that's coming up. And take care of yourselves.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your attention. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.